For over 3 decades, Michael Pollan has explored the fascinating intersection of nature and humanity, writing about the food we eat, the gardens we tend, and the ways we perceive the world. As the author of 8 critically acclaimed books, including How to Change Your Mind, Pollan has achieved remarkable success, with 6 of his works becoming New York Times bestsellers, 3 debuting at #1. Several of these books have been adapted for television, further expanding their impact. In 2020, Pollan co-founded the UC Berkeley Center for the Science of Psychedelics alongside Dr. Keltner and other leading thinkers. The center focuses on groundbreaking research into how psychedelics influence cognition, emotion, and perception, offering fresh insights into the human brain. He also teaches, writes, and lectures extensively on topics ranging from food and agriculture to health and psychedelic science. Born in 1955 on Long Island, Pollan studied at Bennington College, Oxford University, and Columbia University, where he earned a master's degree in English. His ability to weave science and storytelling has inspired countless readers, myself included. Pollan's work resonates with the same balance of logic and wonder found in Joseph Selby's exploration of science and spirituality. Together, they offer a compelling lens to understand how the physical and metaphysical are deeply intertwined, 2 sides of the same coin. Pollan's How to Change Your Mind is more than a book about psychedelics. It's a transformative look at how these substances can reshape our understanding of consciousness, mental health, and reality itself. By framing psychedelics as tools for healing and self-discovery, Pollan challenged us to rethink not only what we know, but how we come to know it. Hello, and welcome to Quantum Storytime, Chapter 11, Changing Your Mind, the Psychedelic Renaissance. I have to take a minute and honor this space and time. It's early January 2025. President Jimmy Carter has just passed away. It's pouring rain, the rain we should have gotten in September. The devastating fire in Los Angeles is still raging. One president is stepping down and another will take his place in a few days. And it feels like the whole world is holding its breath as we lay in wait of what's to come. Without hesitation, I can say that we are divided about what we predict for the next 4 years. But as I've mentioned before, quantum physics says there's no such thing as the future. So it's absolutely all about the here and now. So stop trying to predict. Instead, as a friend said, ask yourself, what if everything is perfect just the way it is, how it's supposed to be? If you're feeling lost, get out of your egoic mind and find a way to create something, anything. Employ your active learning, painting, reading, writing, photographing, daydreaming, listen to YBRR, moving furniture around in your house, singing, dancing, playing an instrument. Share your thoughts and your work. We are finally in the age of Aquarius for all intents and purposes. A time of interconnectedness, community, and a shift towards a more humanitarian and progressive mindset is at hand. If you follow astronomical charts, it's written in the stars and nothing will change that inevitability. But how soon it's implemented, it's up to us. It's up to us to create change, not by forcing ourselves on others, but by living our own truths. Getting rid of those things that no longer serve us and really digging in on the things that bring us joy. Separating your joyous daily life from the fear of what may happen in the future is the key. However, if right here, right now, you feel the need to prepare a physical or emotional emergency kit, complete with a plan, then do it. But don't sit around and just stoke the flames of worry. Living in the here and now may mean stop ruminating on the past and worrying about the future. But you know that spiel, right? That 3 a.m. brain dump that spoils a good night's sleep while you lay there making up dumb shit to worry about. So how? How do you retrain your brain to stop doing that? by retraining your default mode network using the mechanisms like I just mentioned. Okay, so what is a default mode network? The default mode network is a group of interconnected brain regions that become most active when a person is not actively engaged in a task, essentially allowing for internal thought processes like daydreaming, self-reflection, memory recall. But in most cases, it ends up being future worrying, obsessing, fixating, and stressing. As opposed to focusing on some focal external stimuli, it tends to deactivate when actively performing a focused cognitive task. And that's the key here. Research has linked its dysfunction to various mental health conditions, like depression and Alzheimer's disease. The DMN kicks in when you're not actively engaging in an activity. When your mind wanders, where does it go? Does it go to worry, stress, fear? Does it reminisce about days gone by and try to broadcast a scary, unfamiliar world in the future that you have zero control over? Sounds like a touch of Wetiko to me. But reprogramming your DMN is essential to getting you out of that headspace. Getting involved in new, mind-expanding experiences helps rest the DMN, and maybe in the process, you will find your actual life's purpose because you have gained control over that ego. This is where the discussion of plant-based medicine or entheogens come in. Let's define entheogen. It's a psychedelic substance used for spiritual or religious purposes. Ego dissolution. This actually means temporarily dissolving that default mode network so you can see the world through a world independent of your DMN. Okay, let's get back to our discussion for today. In the last chapter, we touched on Joseph Selby's work in the book, The Physics of God. I was pretty determined to continue that discussion, but some synchronicities have pointed me in a new direction. Well, rather, have told me to move on down the road, reference to the whiz. Selby goes into a lot of depth on the subject of quantum physics, and it's all important stuff. But I think y'all may need a break from that. I know I do. I won't ever leave quantum behind, as it is critical to our understanding of how these other more esoteric or fringe topics could work on a scientific level. But it's time to talk about these aspects a bit more now. Many of us are actively seeking diversions and consequently DMN nuggets for healthy living. So, I'm redirecting the focus of this chapter towards Michael Pollan, his book, How to Change Your Mind. Since one of my goals is to help you expand out of your set thought patterns, your DMN, I thought a book with that title would be appropriate. What made this book interesting to me was that it was written by a man who began exploring and writing about mind-expanding substances in his 60s, not in the 60s. He calls himself an experiential writer. He doesn't just write about things, he participates in getting to know them, much like a character actor would. That takes a deeper level of commitment to his subject matter and makes his work more credible. I have to agree. That's important, especially when introducing people to uncomfortable subjects, particularly those around drugs. Links to Pollan's works are in the show notes, of course, but I also wanted to add that there is a Netflix series worth watching if you're interested by the same title. It's fantastic. I found myself tearing up more than once. Right now, you may be thinking, nope, not interested in this topic. But I hope that even if you feel your walls going up, you'll take a deep breath and open yourself up to this information. What I'm going to share with you is purely for information only. I don't condone the use of illegal recreational substances. But depending on where you live, even what is being legalized is changing simply because we have more information about these things now. Thank you, science! Earlier, I told you I had a synchronicity pointing me in a different direction down this road. Well, I was scrolling on YouTube and came across a short lecture Mr. Pollan did at Berkeley. His introducer literally starts his intro with a quip about Dorothy on the yellow brick road. After a few days of uncertainty about what I was going to write about for this chapter, I knew this was it. I'm not going to break this title down into chapters and discuss too many details. I would highly recommend getting his book if you want to go deeper down that rabbit hole. At minimum, watch the series. It is genuinely heartwarming, educational, and inspiring. What, you say? Let's talk a moment about experiences. I am extremely apprehensive about ingesting things that could even remotely upset my gut. Forget legalities, cultural bias, fear of losing control, etc. I don't want my IBS to come back rearing its ugly head. And I had heard enough stories about how some of these substances can really mess with your digestive system. So actually trying anything was way outside my sphere of possibility until I read this book. I'm going to be open and vulnerable here for a moment, but I would be disingenuous if I didn't share that I indeed decided to try it. Like so many other writers and content creators on this topic, I felt it was important to have at least some chips in the game. But believe it or not, it takes me a long time to process things outside the box, especially things so taboo. So many people I've known in my lifetime have felt much freer around these things, and I have to admit, it wasn't anything I would have considered when I was younger. But I never judged anyone else for participating in it. Being older puts you in a place of renewed perspective on many things. So, yeah, I had heard about the digestive issues associated with mushrooms, but in the past few years, it had become much more culturally acceptable and therefore accessible. So when I had the chance to try it while on vacation, I had already decided it was something I wanted to do. Okay, it truly caught me off guard. But I guess it does everyone. To be clear, it was not a hero's dose. That type of dose that dissolves your DMN. I think the most poignant thing to come of it was that after some amazing visuals receded, I got up to move around and I saw myself in the mirror. I saw myself for the first time since childhood without my egoic lens. I remember saying out loud to myself, "Oh my gosh, you're so beautiful." I smiled so big. And that night I laughed until I cried. That is, until my gut said, "Hello, remember me?" The bad news: for a full 2 weeks afterwards, I was so sick with IBS, the joy of the experience left me, and to this day I have not found a way to negate that aspect of the journey. And I've decided that's okay. How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. Man, oh man, I grew up, as many of you did, in an era where psychedelics were strictly forbidden. After coming out of the 60s and the conspiracy around Leary, any and all psychedelics went on lockdown, LSD in particular. Horrible stories had entered the zeitgeist around the danger of its use. As you may remember, these fears were pretty valid. Uneducated, unsupervised recreational trips while under the influence of LSD could kill people who didn't understand its power. But as we will see, its use, along with substances such as psilocybin, DMT, and ayahuasca, can also, under appropriate professional guidance, be not only enlightening, life-changing, and well-enjoyable, but also therapeutic. So follow me for the next few minutes while I take you through the weeds, pun intended, and discuss the modern science-based topics of psychedelics, but more specifically, those we refer to as plant medicine. For some of you, this will not be new information. If that's the case, then carry on. But for others like me, it may just bring some clarity around what Mr. Pollan believes will be a normal part of psychiatry and psychotherapy in the coming years, as it is bringing phenomenal results to patients who are suffering, in trials being conducted in the US and in the UK. The book kicks off with a brief history of psychedelics, specifically substances like LSD and psilocybin, magic mushrooms. These were once hailed as cutting-edge treatments for conditions like depression, anxiety, and addiction. Back in the 50s and 60s, researchers were buzzing with excitement over the potential to revolutionize mental health treatment. But the counterculture explosion of the 60s, which adopted psychedelics for spiritual and personal exploration, led to a societal backlash. Fast forward to today, and Pollan takes us into the heart of a psychedelic renaissance, where scientists are reclaiming these substances as legitimate tools for research and healing. I'm all in. What's truly fascinating about Pollan's book is his exploration of plant medicines like psilocybin and ayahuasca, which have been used by indigenous cultures for centuries. These aren't just recreational experiences. They're spiritual and healing rituals that connect us to something much bigger than ourselves. Pollan argues that modern society has lost touch with these practices, and it's no wonder we're grappling with a mental health crisis. He suggests that psychedelics, used carefully and with intention, can help people reconnect with themselves and with the broader interconnectedness of existence that I've talked about here a few times on this channel. One of the standout sections in the book delves into the transformative work being done with terminally ill patients. In clinical settings, researchers have been giving terminal cancer patients psilocybin to help them confront the anxiety and fear that come with the knowledge of their impending death. These studies are incredibly well designed, and Pollan emphasizes Stanislav Grof's theories around the importance of set and setting, how the mindset of the participant and the environment in which they take the substance play a huge role in the outcome. When done right, these psychedelic sessions can feel like a sacred space, where patients aren't just confronting death, they're embracing it. Pollan shares the story of Dinah Baser, a woman facing terminal cancer who participated in one of the studies. During her session, Dinah experienced a terrifying vision of a black void, something that many people associate with the fear of death. But instead of running from the darkness, Dinah leaned into it, and she was flooded with a sense of profound love and acceptance. After her session, she found herself free from the paralyzing fear of death, and instead, she was filled with gratitude for the present moment. This isn't just a feel-good story, it's a clinical case study that highlights how psychedelics can offer profound emotional and spiritual healing. I believe this case study was highlighted in the Netflix series Episode 2. I literally wept for this woman's ability to not only face her terminal illness by being vulnerable to what was likely a very scary treatment alternative, but for being vulnerable to the audience. As a breast cancer thriver myself, it touched me deeply and reinforced my own feelings about my end-of-life plan. Pollan doesn't just recount the stories of others. He experiences this world himself. As a journalist, he steps into the role of participant, undergoing psychedelic journeys with trained guides. These personal experiences are the heart of his book, and they provide a raw, vulnerable insight into what it's like to experience ego disillusion, where the boundaries of the self begin to blur and the mind expands in ways that are difficult to put into words. These aren't just one-off experiences either. They stick with you. Pollan describes how his own psychedelic sessions helped him confront old mental patterns and gave him a newfound sense of unity with the world around him. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Pollan is careful to point out that psychedelics come with risks. Without proper guidance, preparation, and integration, these substances can lead to confusion or psychological distress. This is why the clinical trials Pollan discusses are so crucial. They're done in controlled, professional environments with experienced facilitators who help participants navigate their experiences. Pollan stresses that while psychedelics have great potential, they need to be approached with caution and respect. As the book progresses, Pollan explores the science behind psychedelics and what they're doing to our brains. He digs into the default mode network, the part of the brain associated with the ego, as I mentioned. Psychedelics temporarily quiet this network, which can lead to what's called ego dissolution. This state of expanded consciousness can help people see the world and themselves through a totally new lens. For many, these experiences aren't just intellectually fascinating, they're deeply spiritual, offering insights into the interconnectedness of all things, which aligns with concepts from quantum physics and other dimensions of reality. Pollan wraps up the book by reflecting on what psychedelics have taught him. For him, these experiences weren't just mind expanding, they were heart expanding. They fostered a greater sense of empathy, curiosity, and awe for life. He's cautious about advocating for widespread use, but he's optimistic about their potential to address some of the most urgent issues of our time: mental health crisis, the growing disconnection from the spiritual and ecological worlds, and even the healing of the planet. But Pollan doesn't stop there. He presents even more case studies that underscore the clinical potential of psychedelics. One example is a study conducted at Johns Hopkins, where participants with treatment-resistant depression were given psilocybin in a safe, controlled setting. Many of these participants reported a single psychedelic experience as one of the most meaningful events of their lives, leading to significant reduction in depression, anxiety, and even addiction. It's a powerful reminder that psychedelics, when used in the right setting and with the right intention, can have profoundly life-changing effects. Another case Pollan highlights involves patients in a trial for addiction treatment. These individuals had struggled with alcoholism and other substance abuses for years without success in traditional therapies. But when given psilocybin, they reported not only a profound emotional breakthrough, but also a shift in their relationship with alcohol. Some even described seeing their addiction as a destructive force, almost like a separate entity that they could now confront head on. The results weren't immediate fixes, but many patients reported lasting improvements in their behavior and attitudes towards substances, suggesting that psychedelics might have a unique ability to help people break free from long-standing psychological patterns. Very exciting. By adding these powerful case studies to Pollan's narratives, we see the clinical professionalism and depth of research that's going into psychedelic studies. It's not just about trippy visuals. It's about real-life, transformative outcomes that could help people in ways traditional therapies haven't been able to. In conclusion, How to Change Your Mind is a call to rethink not just how we view psychedelics, but how we approach mental health, healing, and personal growth in general. Pollan's exploration offers a balanced perspective filled with riveting case studies, scientific insights, and personal reflections. Whether or not you believe in the mystical experiences psychedelics can create, there's no denying the groundbreaking research that's unfolding. These substances are changing lives, and the more we learn, the more we realize they might just change the world. Pretty cool. Okay, so another synchronicity happened after starting this chapter. A content creator I followed did an episode on an entheogenic psychedelic experience he had recently. He was just telling about his experience and wanted to riff on his thoughts after the fact. It became clear that it was time for me to address consciousness beyond the body more thoroughly here on Yellow Brick Road Rash. And now, my beauties, something with poison in it, I think. With poison in it, but attractive to the eye and soothing to the smell. Poppies, poppies, poppies will put them to sleep. The Wicked Witch of the West, The Wizard of Oz, movie released in 1939. At the time Baum wrote this story, Opium was not yet illegal and played a complex role in society. It was valued for its medicinal properties, but also recognized for its potential dangers. It was a known fact that workers in the poppy fields would fall into a deadly sleep when working in the aromatic fields for too long, as it slowed their heart until it stopped beating altogether. The witch throws poppies out there over the road as a barrier to Dorothy's success, as she is literally trying anything she can to get those shoes from Dorothy. But she totally underestimated the power of the community that our cohorts had formed since commencing on this journey. With Glinda's helping dose of snow, which I think may have actually been indicative of the upper effect of cocaine on the downer effect of opium, I don't know, maybe, Dorothy, Toto, and the lion were then saved from their ultimate demise by their friends unaffected by the allure of the beautiful, aromatic, deadly flowers. So let's take a minute and go back to the tarot cards for fun. If we pair the characters up with their counterpart tarot cards, does it shed any extra light on this struggle in the poppies? This analysis is done making the assumption at this point that Dorothy has actually integrated her dissociated parts that were previously personified by the characters she met along the road. Maybe we can see here how their personas laid a hand in saving her from the witch's grasp, while also bolstering Dorothy as one whole human being. I think Baum would be proud. Okay, first is from Glinda. I never assigned Glinda a card, but I think the High Priestess fits perfectly. From Biddy Tarot, the answer she's seeking will come from within. The knowledge of how to fix issues will not come through thinking and rationalizing, but by tapping into and trusting her intuition. So she needs to allow herself the time and space to meditate and attend to her inner voice. Perhaps some limited time in the poppies was actually what she needed. She needed the rest. It is also vital for her to balance and integrate her masculine and feminine energies. This is clearly a goal, integrating the personas of the characters that are actually a part of her. And as the signal that her sacred feminine needs her attention right now, she must feel rather than think, collaborate rather than compete, create rather than destroy. Y'all, she sends the snow to help Dorothy literally and figuratively awaken. Okay, the Scarecrow. Hanged Man, upright. I've gone over this card before, so I won't go into it again here, but in essence, it's time for Dorothy to move forward with a new perspective and sense of energy. Here, Dorothy incorporates the wisdom of the Scarecrow, who's driving her to move forward on this journey. The Tin Man is Temperance, upright. Again, I've covered this. He brings balance, patience, and moderation to Dorothy's journey, and she needs it now more than ever. So essentially, these three cards are saying, wake up, Dorothy, move forward now with a new perspective, but remain balanced so you can stay on course. Draw on your inner Scarecrow and Tin Man moving forward. These three were necessary guides for Dorothy and the others to complete their journey. But when the witch throws down the poppy blockade, Dorothy, Toto, and the lion fall asleep among the flowers. Let's just say those three tarot cards are now put in reverse or upside down. Okay, so we've already determined that Dorothy is the fool in tarot. Upside down, she's fearing the unknown, wondering what she's getting herself into. As a result, she's come to a standstill as she lays among the poppies. Metaphorically, she may be worried about taking any action where she doesn't know the outcome. She needs to balance that sense of limited control with knowing that the universe has her back. And she can take this step forward even if she is unsure of what will happen next. Toto is the moon in reverse. We never covered this one either. The moon reversed indicates that Dorothy has been dealing with illusions, fears, and anxiety. And now those negative influences, those energies are subsiding. She is working through her fears and anxieties and understanding the impact they have on her life. and how she can free herself from such limiting beliefs. This is a truly liberating and transformative experience. She's being called to listen to her inner voice now, or instinct, and not the voice of someone else like Glenda. She should trust that the answers she needs are already within her and tune into her inner guidance system to hear those answers. Okay, the lion is judgment. DMN, judgment in reverse calls for a period of reflection and self-evaluation through meditation or quiet contemplation. Again, poppies. She may arrive at a deep understanding of the universal themes weaving throughout her life and what she can do or change to avoid these situations and to clear these past mistakes. To work on herself for forgiveness, self-acceptance, self-love, it appears the universe is trying to send her a message and invite her to something bigger, but she's not listening. Maybe in the poppies, she's just asleep, metaphorically afraid of the sacrifice she will need to make, or perhaps she's worried that she's not ready to step into a more prominent role. It's time to push past her self-doubt and again trust the universe. So in the end, Dorothy, Toto, and the lion awakened from their slumber, and the whole crew gallantly danced arm in arm toward the Emerald City, fully recommitted to completing the rest of the journey. And quite frankly, high on cocaine. Or likely asbestos, as it was commonly used in the early 1900s before they realized it was a horrible carcinogen. Ultimately, the poppy field isn't just a roadblock. It's a lesson about the balance between rest and vigilance, surrender and action, psyche and ego that must be maintained in order to not only reach personal goals, but maintain a long, healthy life free of confines of a strict, narrow default mode network. It's a symbolic moment that invites us to reflect on the poppy fields in our own lives, the moments that seem to stop us in our tracks. How might these pauses hold the potential for transformation, especially when approached with the right mindset? And who are the people in your tribe that would be there to pick you up in your wake from slumber? Okay, this brings me to another small discussion about silo. When was Juliet's poppy moment? When did she need rest? I have my ideas on this, but I'm caught up with the series and I don't want to introduce any big spoilers here. So if you have any thoughts on this, add them to the comments. I would love to know your thoughts. But if you haven't seen all of the available episodes yet, don't look at the comments unless you want to be spoiled. In my next chapter, I'm going to go into work by Graham Hancock in which he discusses how ancient shamans may have been documenting their universal psychedelic experiences in their cave paintings, as evidenced by the common iconography found in caves around the world. Mr. Hancock is also an experiential writer and has a fascinating and extensive history with the plant medicine known as ayahuasca. I want to take a minute and apologize. Time's really getting away from me, and I know I mentioned some art tutorials. It's still in my mind, but it may take me a bit longer to make it a reality. I still have to figure out how the dang Discord server stuff works and all the technology. I just didn't want to leave you hanging. Well, that's it for now, folks. This is Jewel signing out until next time. Ciao!